Kimberly, good evening and welcome to CWS Journeys.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Beyond the accomplishments, the academic and business success, how would you describe this woman most have come to know as Kimberly Ferguson?
Well, I would have to say that I'm passionate about giving back. I'm passionate about professional development and just helping others kind of figure out what it is that they want to do and what it is that they're good at. So that's become the way that I describe myself, the way that I see myself as the person who's helping others get better at what they do.
Where were you born and why you're that? Give us a glimpse of Kimberly at age 9 and 15.
I was born in New Jersey, and I lived in a town called Jamesburg, Exit 8A, and I had a wonderful childhood. I had wonderful friends, a wonderful family, but I have to say that the 9-year-old and the 15-year-old Kimberly is very different from the Kimberly today. I think that a lot of that had to do with, even though I had the drive and the ambition, I had to figure out a way and an outlet to manifest it. And even though there was that passion there to help others, I hadn't really figured out how to make that work for me. Even when I was in college, I still hadn't figured out how I was going to make my mark and how I was going to help this passion come to light. So the 9-year-old Kimberly was giving and someone who wanted to help others. The 15-year-old Kimberly was trying to find herself and kind of figure out what it was that I was going to be, who was I going to be. And I think now the 40-year-old Kimberly is just, I'm very comfortable and happy with who I've become and what I've been able to do with the gifts that I've been given.
What is your favorite memory of your mother and other women who have made an impact on you?
My favorite memory of my mother, that's a tough one because I have so many wonderful memories with my mom. I would have to say, though, the conversations, the heart-to-hearts that we had. I mean, we had, even though she was my mom, and I knew that she was my mom, and I knew, I respected her as my mom, she was also my friend. And we would have those honest conversations, and she would always tell me I could do anything that I wanted to. And that, I think, was part of or is part of the reason that I was able to, and I've been as confident as I am. Sometimes folks ask me about that confidence. I think a lot of that comes from just having someone in my corner always. I mean, even, in adulthood, no matter what it is, when I left corporate and said I wanted to go ahead and start really focusing on my business, I mean, she was right there in my corner saying, you can do it.
When I first spoke with you, you had these pearls of wisdom, these one-liners and two-liners, very, very inspirational and motivational. Is your mom like that?
She is. She's motivational. She always finds a lot of what she quotes, though, is from the scripture. So she would, I can remember being in college and being frustrated about all the work and feeling overwhelmed, and her giving me scriptures to read and just say, trust and have that faith. And you'll notice even in the way that I deliver, when I deliver my trainings, when I deliver career development facilitation, faith is at the core. I always tell people to lean on that faith.
What is one particular saying or scripture or statement that your mom has used with you and that still resonates with you today?
Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not into your own understanding, but in all of your ways acknowledge Him and He will direct your paths. Proverbs.
You mentioned you enjoy the conversations with your mom. So was there anything else you enjoyed doing with her as a child?
Just spending time. Just spending that time together. I mean, we spent a lot of time. She would take me to and from drama rehearsals and all kinds of different things. So we got a lot of time together. So I really think for me, it was the time that we spent that was so important.
You're a pretty committed person, dedicated. Do you, in reflection, do you recognize that attitude when you were a child?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, she was one to stick to something and never give up. I mean, she stuck to a job that, in hindsight, especially because of what I do in career development, and I look back and I say, why did you stay there for so long? But it was that commitment and that dedication, and she was that way with everything.
As a professional development trainer,
Okay.
what is it exactly you do?
I go out to different organizations and I provide training. I provide soft skills training. So it's not too much on the hard skills, even though I do some hard skill training, but mostly on presentation skills, customer service, career development. So today was a workshop on time management. So I was teaching a team how to better manage their time. Earlier this week, it was presentation skills, teaching people how to be better in speaking publicly. I do team development work. So what I do is really go out and teach people how to get better at what they do. And my focus, the way that I approach it, is I ask people, even if there are 20 in the room, I ask them to think about what their challenges are. What are the things that you're looking to get out of our time together? As opposed to just going in and throwing a bunch of information at them, I want them to focus on what it is that they can take away. And that has been key. I think that approach has really been key to my success, why people call me back, why people want me to come and work with their teams.
How did you get interested in this, and when did this all begin for you?
So I always wanted to teach. And when I got out of college, I got a job working at Dow Jones. So I got a job in corporate and I liked it. I was good at it and I was moving up. And so the money was getting good. And the whole idea of teaching went on the back burner, but it was still there. It was still within me wanting to teach. And in 2006, so that was 9 years after I'd started there. The itch it was just burning. I had that burning desire to teach at that point. And I mentioned it again to my husband, who had heard it over the years. And he said, if you want to do it, we're going to make it work. Because the question for me was the finances. I was going to be leaving corporate to go teach. And so I did it. I left corporate and I took a job at an alternative high school. Now, one of the things to keep in mind is that while I was in corporate, I was doing some training and some presenting, and I found that I liked working with adults as well. So I was trying to find something that was going to give me that same balance where I could work with the young people, because it's something I wanted to do, but also work with adults. And I found a school. It was an alternative high school, working with students who had been removed from traditional school for one reason or another. And that program also had a training component where I could go out and help them teach other teachers how to be good at what they did. So that's really where, once I started doing that and doing both, I started volunteering for a community development corporation. And through that, I launched some professional development programs, some literacy programs, and I got volunteers. And so then I realized, I could really be doing this as a business. I really could be doing this. So I took what I was doing at the school and what I was doing for the teachers, and I kind of packaged it up and started my company. And that was in 2008, but at that time it was a hobby. It was, just my side thing. I was making a little bit of money doing it. And as time went on, that passion continued to grow inside of me. And I left working at the high school and started working at a college doing professional development training. But it was very specific training. And it wasn't enough for me. It just wasn't enough. And after leaving the college, very strategic, I found a job working for a company where they were implementing a learning management system. That was the one thing in that area that I didn't have under my belt, and I just felt like that would make me a little bit more marketable. So I went and I worked there for a year, and I couldn't take it. I knew that I was supposed to be working my business. So I left, and I right away started sending proposals out. I responded to an RFP, and the rest is history. I mean, the folks contacted me, I interviewed with them, and they liked what I was presenting, and I started working with the city. And after that, I started working with another organization, and before I knew it, I had more clients. And
So what was your greatest challenge in the beginning?
I think my greatest challenge was fear. I think that was
Fear.
it. Yeah. I mean, even though I didn't let it overtake me, it was in the back of my mind, okay, I am leaving a job that's paying me a regular salary to pursue this.
How did you overcome this fear?
I just did it. I mean, I think a lot of it had to do with faith. You know, I really believed that that's what I was supposed to be doing. I felt like God had my back on this one. And I felt, you know, I had my family. My family was very supportive. My friends were very supportive. You know, my husband, my mom, even my kids. It's so interesting, but they're great about, you know, what I do. And the fact that even during that time, I was working so much trying to get this thing together. So I was putting in some crazy hours.
So that is very important.
Absolutely.
For wannabe entrepreneurs, those who are attempting to become entrepreneurs, and those who are already entrepreneurs, to put in the work.
Absolutely.
I want to touch a little bit on your husband. You mentioned before that when you went to him, he was very supportive. So for those couples out there, people in relationships, how important is this to have this support?
It's so important, and it's really interesting because what he always goes back to when we first got married, probably a year and a half into our marriage, he got laid off from his job, and I was very supportive, but that was just who we were as a couple. But he always goes back to that about, you know, how supportive I was, but I find you know, he keeps referring to that, and it had such an impact. It meant so much to him, but he doesn't know how much it means to me, how supportive he's been, because, you know, you think about it, I left corporate to teach. And then once I was there, I kind of realized, you know, this business, this need, this passion to have a business where I was doing what I'm doing now. And as that developed, you know, the support that he gave me. So I would tell couples, it's just so important to be supportive of each other, give each other honest feedback though. And I think that's what's key, because I've been really honest with him about some ideas that he's had, and he's been just as honest with me about some ideas, and that's what helped.
Did you ever feel like going back, or like you made the wrong decision in the beginning?
I can't say that I felt like I made the wrong decision. There have been moments, especially because one of the things I didn't mention is that a previous employer had reached out to me about coming on full time. And at that time, I thought about it, you know, for a quick moment. But in that conversation, I said, absolutely not. But after I got off that call, I was just, you know, again, what I'm doing now is I have to work at it. In order to get the business. It's not steady income unless I'm making it work. So whereas in corporate, or, you know, at the college or wherever I was working, I knew I was going to get that paycheck.
How did this reality of having to work to make it work, having to put in the work to make it work, how has that reality changed you or shaped you into who you've become?
Well, that's interesting because I think it's always been a part of who I was. I mean, I even think about when I was working for others. I always seemed to find that way to kind of create something or go above and beyond. So I think it's always been a part of who I am, but I really had to demonstrate it here.
What drives you?
So a couple of things. I'll start with I'll start with faith. So again, you know, I think a lot of what drives me and pushes me is my faith, and just knowing that I can do it. My confidence, my family, the love from my family. That's what drives me. My little ones. I mean, just knowing. And my youngest will even say, "You have to go to work so you can buy me toys."
Yeah. So I like that. Take advantage of opportunity. Your statement. Elaborate a little.
So there are many times that we're presented with something that doesn't look like opportunity, something that we may frown at. What I encourage people to do is to think about your passion, think about your goals, think about what it is, how do you define success? What does success look like for you? And then once you've defined that, as these opportunities, as these chances come your way, take advantage of them. So even if it doesn't seem like it's in alignment with your current position, what you're currently doing, is is it in alignment with a future opportunity? And I encourage people to look at it that way. Also, when you think about life, every second, every moment is an opportunity for growth, for development. I said that today in my workshop. It's time management, so of course I'm going to say something like that, right? But the idea that take advantage of every moment, every second, take advantage of it.
How important is that to impress upon, especially young minds?
It's especially young minds. It's so very important. And the reason that I say that, I think about my time teaching, and those students who had missed many opportunities in their traditional school but were given a second chance in this alternative program. I constantly reminded them, take advantage of what we present to you. We brought in speakers, we brought in different programs, and I said, whenever I bring someone in, take advantage of it. I had a friend when I was from college who at the time he was working for P. Diddy, and so he came to talk to the students, and I said, take advantage of learning from someone who's doing some of the things that you're interested in doing. Take advantage of learning, opportunities to just simply grow and learn new things. Open up a book. So in those moments, the power of, I know I keep saying taking advantage of opportunity, but there's so much power in taking advantage of the moments that we're given.
What would you say is your mission?
To help others. And I know that sounds cliche. I know it does.
No, it's fine.
But it's my passion. And I think it's evident. I think it comes through in the things that I do. I think it comes through in just my approach to life, my approach to my business, even my approach with my friends, with my family. It's about, giving back and helping others, again, get better at what they do.
Do you have a motto?
So I have a motto. I wouldn't say I have a motto, but I mean, the taking advantage of opportunity is huge for me. And then the other thing I think that's right in alignment with that is take action.
Well, you have some core principles which I love. I call them your core principles. They may not be. You may have other core principles, but you share them with me. It's to be aware of your goals, your passions, and where you want to be. Mm-hmm. So how have you, or do you incorporate this in your professional life?
Self-assessment. So taking time, when I talk about being aware, I've learned in this field that people are not self-aware. They're not aware of where they are. They're not aware of where they want to go. So that is so important. And I talk about it. I talk about it in my book. I talk about it in my workshops. Self-assess. Even today, in a time management and a stress management workshop, I had them take the time to assess.
What about people who say to you, it's frightening to assess myself. I really wouldn't like what I find. What happens to people who may take a pad and write a list of 10 things that they found, 10 things they don't like about themselves? That fear, that initial fear, initial anxiety, how do they deal with that?
Well, the approach that I always tell folks to take is, yes, I want you to find the things that are your challenges, but when you self-assess, you should be looking for those strengths as well. So it's not as scary when you're taking that strength-based approach. Yes, absolutely. And it's not as scary. So if I figure out what I'm good at, I can reward myself for those things. And self-assessing isn't about it's not just about figuring out what's in the gap. It's figuring out where I am. What am I good at? What can I take and make a business out of or make money out of?
Funny you said that. I was going to ask you about entrepreneurship.
Okay.
Why exactly did you become an entrepreneur?
Because I wanted to create my own. Mm-hmm. I wanted to kind of chart my own path. And I felt like when I was working directly for others, when I was full-time working for others, I really didn't have the opportunity to do that. I wanted to build something that was greater than the things that I was seeing out there. So I felt like the only way to do that was to start my business and to start my training programs. And what I found was I was able to do that. I'm still building, don't get me wrong, but in what I've been able to deliver, the feedback that I've received from clients, from participants, has been that what they get, what I've kind of differentiated myself. Mm-hmm. So what they get is a little bit different than what they've gotten in other workshops.
Let's take a break. When we get back, I want to talk about your book. You mentioned it.
Okay.
So I want to get into the book.
Okay.